Hey, Slater Crusaders. So I know we've been just like throwing crazy terms at you as we've been diving into this woke cult of critical theory and postmodernism and Marxism. But it's always worthy to take some time and kind of slow it down and talk about the root of these things and define our terms and all that stuff. And that's why I'm super grateful for Tyler Brandt. He's a senior associate editor at the Foundation for Economic Education, which is obviously an incredible group. And he wrote this great article on Herbert Marcuse, which may be a name that you've heard thrown around lately. Tyler, how are you, brother?
Excellent this morning, Mike. How are you?
Really good, man. Glad you're here. Let's start as big as we can. What is postmodernism?
Okay. All right. Well, starting as big as we can, I would say that postmodernism is essentially a new philosophy, past modernism, that essentially rejects all forms of objective truth.
Okay. Like what? And how so?
So, for example, in the universities and throughout academia, there has long been traditions of Plato and Socrates and other philosophers trying to discover things as they are and discovering objective truth. And I would say that this postmodern theory that has infected its way through academia essentially posits that we can't understand anything besides power struggles and besides the oppressor versus the oppressed, more specifically.
Okay, so I totally get it. So we just did 2 segments on math and postmodernism and math. And like, well, what is math? What are numbers? Who are you to say? It's all about your different understandings as we know numbers to exist on your narrative of experience. So that all sounds like a bunch of postmodern mumbo jumbo. So love that, and I totally get it. Where did it come from? And this is where we can introduce Herbert Marcuse. Who's this cat?
So Herbert Marcuse they call him the father of the New Left, and he was essentially the most prominent figure in what people call the Frankfurt School, which was a college in Germany that took critical theory and then essentially spread it to the masses. So if you want to go back and you want to ask where postmodernism came from, first it was from Immanuel Kant and his critical philosophy, and it's also mixed in with Hegel and his dialectic. Essentially, the master-slave dialectic, I think, is the most important thing to understand there. And based off of those 2 philosophies and Marx comes Herbert Marcuse and the School of Critical Theory from Frankfurt, Germany.
All right, I love the mapping it out. So I'm reading the Thomas Sowell book on Karl Marx right now, and we did a bio on Karl Marx the other day, and he was in the Young Hegelians and his influence of Hegel. And so you say Kant to Hegel to Marx to Marcuse. So I guess the question is, how much of Marx is in Marcuse's philosophy?
I would say a heavy portion of it. The funny thing about the critical theorists is that they're kind of gadflies in a way, where they apply critical theory to everything, even Marxism. So Herbert Marcuse himself wrote very strong critiques on Marx and Marxism, Leninism, but still I would say heavily inspired by Marx's works.
So it's wild. What I don't understand is, like, if the argument is you can't know truth, what do they say about themselves when it comes to what they're saying is true?
That's a good question. And I don't know if they would posit it's true. For them, it's a matter of experience through this dialectic power dynamics that you can understand. So between the oppressor and the oppressed, there is a conflict. And what we can observe is that conflict happening. We can't know truth through logical formulations. Rather, it's the conflict wherein we can draw these inferences about reality and power dynamics from.
Okay, can you give me a little more on that? What does that mean? And dialectics is a crazy word.
Yes.
So what is dialectics? And as I'm trying to understand these guys, I also want to ask you what the truth is, or what the philosophy was that they were arguing against, that we've grown up thinking is true.
Mm-hmm. Well, the philosophy they were arguing against is traditionalism, in a sense, and that's very broad, so that'd be hard for me to break it down, but it's essentially dismantling all forms of philosophy which the Western civilization has came to understand truth and draw inferences from reality about. So it's just dismantling that whole traditional structure, in a sense.
So do you believe we can know truth?
Personally, I think we can get very close to it because I have a Platonic view of truth. That is, there is an objective truth that exists. And as humans, we do have certain cognitive biases. But in breaking down those biases and understanding the formal study of logic, we can get very close to objective truth. And I think mathematics is the biggest proof of that.
So I love because this is what I've learned about this postmodern Marxist stuff. There's like a little teeny tiny kernel of truth that they can, right, that they take and they blow it up. So you talked about cognitive biases, and they take that to mean, well, your experience and narratives and nothing is true, right? So right. I love how you account for that. Like, oh no, there's biases, but you break those down, not the concept of truth itself, right?
Right. That isn't to say there aren't power dynamics in play in society. It's just to say it's probably not as significant as critical theorists think it is. They blow it up to mean everything. And it's kind of like, you give a kid a hammer and everything looks like a nail. You give a philosopher critical theory and they want to take critical theory and dismantle everything.
Oh, good. We got a few more minutes. Okay.
We're doing good here, Mike.
No, you're crushing it. So give me an example of something that a Marxist or a Hegelian or a Marcusian would see as a dialectic power struggle that you or I would look at and be like, oh no, that's not like that's not a power oppressor dynamic.
Yeah, I think one easy example is just say boss and employee, right? I'm a cashier at Starbucks and my boss tells me make this drink, do this, be here at 8 o'clock. And I see that as oppressive because there is an inherent power dynamic at play where I can't express myself. I can't do what I want to do just because of the structure that is. And where I would say being a capitalist and understanding that essentially labor and employee relations is a trade, I am not inferior because I am here on my own volition and I chose to be here. So I would say people view that as a power struggle, but in reality, what it is, it's an agreement between employer and employee.
Yeah. Yeah, let me throw one your way and see if you think this fits. So I read an article the other day about, or not an article, this is one of these Marxist academics talking about how the power struggle dynamic between parents and child and how that needs to be dismantled even as well.
Yeah.
So they're everywhere, right? They see it every dynamic.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly something you would read out of the critical theory handbook.
Amazing.
So it's
okay, how does this infiltrate our culture? So a lot of this stuff, and I'm so glad you talked about like Platonic and traditional theory, because I've just I think most of it, we've just sort of grown up in this culture and we just kind of absorbed this stuff without even really thinking about it. The traditional way of thinking. And now I think young people and everyone is kind of starting to kind of like wallow in this Marxist postmodern world, and we don't even see how it's affecting the way we think. So what's maybe an example of a way that we're just kind of stewing in this and we don't even know it?
I think it's our inability to have a conversation. I think it's our inability to appeal to a formal structure of logic. And it's our inability to appeal to objective truths, wherein we can have conversations with people of different political beliefs and maybe come up with a solution that we both can agree on. But right now, both sides or all sides have such competing different belief systems, and they don't even believe in the possibility of compromise or the possibility of objective reality. So just the fact that so much stuff is crazy right now, I mean, that's just the best example.
Perfect example. So I got to run here, but we did a biography on Marx the other day, and Marx's mom, who he hated, did not give him an advance on his inheritance. And he wrote a letter to Engels saying that it's so unfair that his family places these hurdles in his way. So the idea that she didn't give him money is a hurdle. Is that a very Marxian concept?
I'd probably say so, yeah. Give me money, otherwise it's the structure that's the problem and we're going to tear it all down.
Amazing. Tyler, how did you get so smart? I got to run, but give me like something that we all need to read and learn more about.
Oh, God. I listen to a lot of YouTube lectures. I think in this day and age, we can't sit down and read because our time is too precious. So if you want to get smart, you want to learn, go on YouTube, listen to all these great people do lectures. Jordan Peterson is a great guy for all this stuff. And just listen instead of read, I would say.
And it's there for now, so do it while we can. Tyler Brandt from Foundation for Economic Education. Tyler, let's talk again, man. Appreciate you.
Yep, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it for having me.
Really good. I love that. That was as clear and articulate as perfect. True story. Slater, spread the word.